Well, I do not know if your situation is similar to mine, but I've grown up in a society where the perception on who is rich is very bad. I've never come across a person who is probably known to be rich without stories of either witchcraft, corrupt, and all those other things. I don't know if this is a situation with you, so should probably comment that in the comment section so that I see on basically your view of how your society views people as successful or great. It is very important that we talk about this topic because if your thinking and perception is wrong, then your life is wrong. Now, because I believe that everyone who was rich was doing something bad, I had a negative attitude towards the rich. Even when I'm seeing, let's say, a vehicle pass which is big, I'll say, those are thieves, maybe they are drug dealers, and all those things. And because that became normal, it simply meant that I couldn't see myself becoming something. It is only at a certain point after reading and seeing stories of success people who have done it genuinely, that's when my mind began to change. But I've grown up thinking that being rich is for evil people. I don't know if this is the situation with you guys, but if it is, put in the comment section so that we talk about it. So today I'm going to talk about a topic titled How to Become Great Without Exploiting Others. How to become great without exploiting others. This is probably the opposite of what we've been taught or what we have observed to be true in the society, because in society basically we think being great is a result of exploiting others. But how do we become great without exploiting others? I can give this a subtitle as How to Rise from Nothing to Something. How do you rise from nothing to something without exploiting others? It is very fundamental that we answer and deal with this topic, because we end up having a lot of people, a lot of youths who think low of themselves, who get comfortable because simply their view of wealthy or being great is distorted by society and what we've been made to believe. So this is why I'm going to talk about this topic today. So as usual, I always find it important to understand what the manufacturer, who is God, has to say about wealth or being great. What does God say about that thing? It is very important because everything in life, everything that is designed on earth is basically out of God's own thinking. So basically, the Bible is simply a kingdom book of how the earthly citizens should live and acquire certain things. So it is very important that in our lives we try. If we can't be perfect, of course we can't, but let us try at least to live by principles of the Bible with regards to wealth, regards to friendship, regards to marriage, and all those things. So let us look into the Bible, what it talks about in terms of how to be great. How do you become great without exploiting others? So I'll go direct to Matthew 23 verse 11, and the Bible reads, "The greatest among you will be your servant. The greatest among you will be your servant." Now, this is very unnatural, especially to those that have come to believe that um, basically the great people exploit the poor and things like that. And we tend to think that being great is a result of acting great, but it is basically the opposite. Now, if we understand these principles, it simply means will not exploit others. Okay. Number two, will not tend to think of greatness as a way to be great. In other words, you can't be great by being great. You become great by being a servant. This is very fundamental, and it has affected a number of people, especially graduates. You find that someone probably maybe studied abroad, comes back with a lot of good papers back in Zambia, but because that's perception of thinking that they can't start small, they haven't found employment because one, they want to jump from being servants to being masters. They want to be saved instead of going through the process of saving, acquire a skill or rather acquire experience before they can then be people who can then be saved. So how do you go from being nothing to being great? It simply means you have to go through a process of saving. This is very fundamental because we are the number of graduates going in society, they can't, I don't know if it's ego or what, they can't simply start small. They just want to start big salary scale. You can't talk to a graduate about a 3-5 probably salary. To them it's nothing because their expectation is too high. They want to save at the highest level, but you first must be a servant before you become great. This is very fundamental. Let us look at some key concepts from the scripture. Okay, let us do the word study on servant. The greatest among you will be a servant. What is servant in the context of the Bible? Now, the Greek word servant simply means diakonos. Diakonos is a Greek word, diakonos, which simply means attendant or waiter. So I have a question. What are you attending to? Okay, what do waiters do? They serve. What are you serving people? Those are key questions that you must answer. Key concepts from the scripture. Number one, greatness is not achieved by acting great. Greatness is not achieved by acting great. Okay? There are people that can't be controlled. They simply want to be on the top. They are not listeners. They always want to be listened to. Such mentalities. Number two, greatness comes from being a servant first, which is direct. Greatness comes from being a servant first. Number three, you cannot be saved before serving others. You cannot be saved before serving others, or rather, you cannot be saved before serving first. Now, saving in this case is not saving of saving, saving like maybe saving money. No, I'm simply of looking at saving more like a service, more like giving, more like providing something to others. This is what I mean. Okay, very important. Now, let us look at the role of a gift in becoming great. The role of a gift in becoming great. Okay, the question is, the Bible tells us to say, the greatest among you will be your servant. Okay, now the question is, what then do you serve people? What should you serve people? This is another question which basically I'm going to answer next, which is the role of a gift in becoming great. Let us read together Proverbs 18 verse 16. It reads, a man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. I repeat, a man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. So we're seeing a pattern here. To come from nothing, you must be a servant. What do you serve? A gift. That gift then brings you to great people who then make you great. So greatness is found where great people are. So today, make it deliberate to be found where great people are. And it's not all about being where great people are. You should be where great people are because of serving something. You can be attending conferences where great people are, and probably this is why in Zambia we've seen a number of people. For example, one of my mentors, Dumisani, who I follow so much, comes up with this thing called Africa Must Think. Okay? Comes up with Africa Must Think, where he shares ideas on business. Okay? where he advises people to go there so they can network with great men, people, and women, and all those things. But even after people going there, few then begin to ridicule him because they say he just talks and people don't see results. Now, this is what we're talking about. No matter how much you attend conferences, if you haven't identified a gift that you should save people or that you should save great men, then no matter how many conferences you go to, no matter how many great people you meet, no matter what you do, you won't see greatness. So first identify your gift, save it to people, then you will meet great men, and great men will be attracted to that gift. Quite alright, you can go and meet great men, but the question is, what are you going to provide? What service are you giving? What differentiates you? Why should they make you great as well? Is the question, which is very fundamental. Attending conferences is not bad, but there should be a prerequisite of what you must develop in yourself that will then make you become great, which is a gift. So Proverbs 18 verse 16 says, a man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. So what brings you before great men? A gift. NIV says it even better. NIV says it better. NIV says, a gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great. A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great. What opens the way? A gift. So basically, you might think things are closed for you. You try this, nothing is working. You try this, nothing is working. Or maybe others, to the extreme, don't even try. They think things are not just working. Identify your gifts, and basically, doors will be open. No matter how much people try to block you, if your gift speaks louder, there will be no obstacles but to just allow you manifest yourself. Doors will be open. So identify your gift is very important. Word study on gift. Basically, the word gift comes from the word to give. To give, which NIV explains better. So a gift is something you give. What are you giving? Okay? What are you giving to the public? What are you giving to people? Now, there must be a caution though, because it's something you can give, because a gift is something you give. It means possibilities of giving something bad are also there. Okay? There are people who would give you something beneficial, and there are people who give you something bad. For example, there are people who have been given poison. There are people who give poison to kill others. So then, the question is, what should you give the public? Because not all things that you give are God driven. Okay? So now, let us now look at how do you identify your gift? How do you identify your gift? And there is a caution in Romans 8 verse 28. And it reads, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. I repeat, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called to his purpose. So your gift should be according to his purpose, God's purpose. This is a measure of whether your gift really is of value or not. Is it there to serve people in a good or bad way? Because you can have a gift. Because basically the society, the things we have watched, and that is why when you go to my previous video, I've explained of the power of meditating on the word. Depending on what you read, what you watch, you might be misled into thinking that the gift you have is from God. Meanwhile, it is basically a programmed one because of what you've watched, you then tend to think of ideas that become your passion, but which are wrong and are not driven by God. So there's need to change on what we read, what we watch, because that affects what we think and it affects our passion. For example, due to pop culture, there are people who think probably walking halfway naked is what they're passionate about. That's the definition of passion. Well, the question is it God driven? Does it really pay to advertise yourself moving half naked in public? Is it God driven? That's a question you should answer. Okay? So it's very important that you identify to say, is this really God's will for my life? Is it really? Because you then differentiate, and you can only reach that level if you change what you focus on, if you change what you hear, what you read, and even what you feed on. Okay, it's very important. Now, we know we're supposed to save a gift to the public. We know our gift maketh room for us and brings us before great men. But then there's still another question. How do you identify your gift? How do you identify your gift? This is a very difficult question. Okay, it's a very difficult question because it answers the question, what can I do? What am I here for? Okay, these are tough questions. So this is why I'm trying to answer, how do you identify your gift? Now, a gift is a result of the two junctions where purpose lies. The two junctions where purpose lies. You must identify these two things, of course, putting into consideration that it must be in line with God's purpose. Okay? And when you identify this, then that is basically your gift or your purpose. Okay? So number one is passion. Junction number one is passion. Okay? Junction number two is capability. So passion and capability, where these two things meet, that is where your purpose lies. Now, what's the difference between passion and capability? Passion is simply what you love to do. Okay? Passion is simply what you love to do. Capability is something you can do well. Now, these are very different things. There are people who would love to do something. They really love doing it, but they can't do it well. Okay? There are also people who are able to do something well, but they don't love doing it. Maybe a practical example. I don't know, but when I was growing up, I had people, in fact myself, at a certain time, especially when I was young, I used to love school a lot. I used to love it very much, to the extent that I used to cry for my brother just to go to school with him. I had skipped nursery, okay, crying. If I fail, I would cry for failing, okay. So I loved school, but I was failing, okay. So there are certain things that you would love, but you're not doing well with them, okay. And that probably you say that maybe that's just primary, or I mean that's just maybe tertiary education and stuff like that. So that's normal. But even in grade 12, there are people they really love school, but it just doesn't work for them. They love it, go rewrite GC, fail still, but they keep trying. They love it, but they're not doing it well. So this is why you should meet a junction between passion and capability. When you find that intersection, then basically that is your purpose, that is your gift, and that is what will make room for you from now going forward. I thought this is important, worth of sharing, but remember, your gift should always be in line with God's purpose. This is the message from Malova Mwidulumbwe, and see you on the top. I thank you.